Welcome to another edition of Points of Interest, brought to you by the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. My name is Paul Boucher. I'm the President and CEO of the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. And as we do each week, we present you with the events going on in the Upper Valley for this week and have a special guest. This week being no different, we have Senator David Pierce, who is our senator from District 5, who represents this area, who will be speaking about the upcoming legislature and what the goings on in Concord and keep us abreast of all of that. But first, the activities that are going on in the Upper Valley. Over in Canaan, they're doing a pumpkin carving at the Canaan Hardware store. And it says, carve a pumpkin to display on the town common. And the pumpkins and tools are provided free. And so this is sponsored by the Mascoma Valley Parks and Recreation and the Canaan Hardware. Be a lot of fun, and they're going to decorate the park. It's like if you head from here on Route 120 south to Claremont, in Meriden, once you hit the Meriden line, all kinds of scarecrows and Halloween decorations and such, all the way down to get to the Cornish lines. And they do a great job, and it's an event that grows every year. So if you're interested in that too, those are beginning right here on 120 the minute you hit the Meriden line. We also have, and on Wednesday, outdoor yoga in Enfield. I think it's a little cool for outdoor yoga, but this is on Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Enfield Shaker Museum. And it's they say a moderately paced class focused on building strength and balance. I need the balance part, I think. But so that is at the Enfield Shaker Museum. In Canaan, again, winter clothing giveaway and donations in Canaan. This is being sponsored by the United Methodist Church on Route 4. And it says, pick up free winter clothing or drop off items to donate that other people could use. It's a great event, and we encourage you to participate. Also on Wednesday, we have an opening reception in West Lebanon at the Kilton Library. It's an exhibition of watercolors by Patty Rutledge, and Warren and Rosalie Rutledge also will be on display through January 31st, and that's at the Kilton Library in West Lebanon. Also over in White River, Our Town is being put on at the Barrett Center for the Arts. For those who you might remember, it's the old location of Miller Auto, right there on Gate Street. And what they've done is they've built a beautiful theater there, and Northern Stage does the productions there. It's in the round as it was before when it was in the Briggs building, and but it's really a great venue, and you'll really enjoy it. So they're starting to from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. performances. If you want to call for tickets, 802-296-7000. Ongoing events that we have is, again, Enfield Shaker Museum. They're open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday, noon to 4 on Sunday. And they have guided and self-guided tours with historical interpreter. Tell you all about the Shakers that once lived out there, and you can see the artifacts and the things that are going on out there. And that's at the Enfield Shaker Museum. We have coming up on next performance at the Lebanon Opera House, Trumbull Hall Troupe in When in Rome, and they will be performing Friday, November 13th and Sunday, November 15th. Again, I would suggest you either go online or call for tickets, because these are really sold out, usually in the past have been sold out performances. And they're all winter long. We've got some great things coming up at the Opera House. We have on Friday, November 20th, and we'll talk about these also as the time gets closer, from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Frankenweiler. And that's coming up in November. Clara in Context from City Center Ballet will be in early December, and they're planned all the way through to May 31st. So we'll talk about those as they come up. Fall workshops with Upper Valley Score. Those all are on Thursdays from 6 to 9 p.m. at their office, which is on the third floor. I would still call it the National Bank Building because that's what it's been for 100 years, but it's upstairs of where SCORE is. I'm sorry, where Citizens Bank is located, and on the third floor there. So up and coming workshops there. Internet marketing, that's on October 29th. Search engine optimization, November 5th. Marketing through social media, November 12th. And build a website with WordPress, November 19th. So if any of those are interest to you, you can call 448-3491 and make your reservations. The classes run from, as I mentioned, 6 to 9, and they are $30. I attended one last week on QuickBooks. And see all this, everybody's on QuickBooks. I finally learned how to do QuickBooks. They were very, very informative, and I now know enough to be dangerous. Then we have fall registrations are now open at Ava Gallery, and art classes and workshops for children, teens, and adults. And those are open right now. And I would suggest you give them a call to go over the list of what's being offered there. Maggie Burnett would gladly talk to you at 448-3117. There's also a art lab class being held right now, October 28th to November 28th, with an opening reception on October 28th at Ava Gallery. And the reception runs from 5 to 7 p.m. on the 28th. And you can get to see collages of color, recent works for art labs at there. And got a beautiful glassware exhibition going on now. It's just gorgeous what people have done from vases to hangings, picture hangings and such. It's really a great, so they're open daily. And so if you want to avail yourself of that. We have coming up this weekend, Friday, October 30th, Top of the Hop at Alumni Hall at Dartmouth College, Oktoberfest. It's a celebration of New England craft brewers and local food artisans. And the tickets are $40 online, $45 at the door. Proceeds are going to the local charity sponsored by the Hanover Lions Club. And we have a list here of all of the breweries that are going to be participating, and it sounds like a great time to me. So that is Oktoberfest this coming weekend, Friday, October the 30th, 6 to 9, Top of the Hop in Hanover. So those are some of the activities going on this week in the Upper Valley, and we welcome Senator Dave Pierce to the program, and been here a few times, and he always keeps us very abreast of what's going on in Concord.
Yes, Paul. Thanks for having me again.
So you are sort of in recess at the moment?
We are. Yep. The legislature typically meets between January and June. The second half of the year is usually reserved for things like study committees, re-referred bills, things like that.
So you will start inners in January.
Correct. Right.
And we finally get the budget put to bed.
Yes, finally. Yes.
That took quite a bit of...
Everyone was very pleased to put that one to bed.
Yeah, I'm sure. What do you... Of course, the bills are submitted now in this period of time that they not...
The House has already... The period for them to file bills is already open and closed. The Senate window is open right now, so the senators are offering bills right now.
That will be brought up in January.
Yeah, all of those will be brought up in January.
Anything down the road that you see might be of interest?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue in this next term, as you might imagine, is whether to reauthorize Medicaid expansion. When we passed the bill for Medicaid expansion in 2014, it included an automatic sunset provision for December 31st, 2016. And, of course, that if this legislature in this next session, doesn't reauthorize Medicaid expansion, then it would automatically terminate at the end of the year.
And that would affect how many people in the
About 42,000 people now have insurance that did not have insurance before. And it's a critical economic issue, especially to this District 5, Senate District 5, with Dartmouth-Hitchcock being the largest hospital in the state and, of course, in the area, but also being the largest employer in the state. Alice Peg Day, as well as Valley Regional down in Claremont. The New Hampshire Hospital Association puts out a quarterly white paper, what is what they call it, and they've been tracking how Medicaid expansion has helped or affected the hospitals. And we've seen reductions of up to between 20 and 25% in charity care in uncompensated costs. So the hospitals are actually are being compensated for services that they're providing to the tune of 20% more. Before, when someone comes in, doesn't have any insurance, as is the case today, they don't have any insurance, they walk in, Hitchcock, every hospital has to treat them. They have no choice to turn them away. Of course, if the patient can't pay, then that's a loss to the hospital. But with the advent of Medicaid expansion and 42,000 more people having insurance, the hospitals are getting reimbursed for some of those
some of the
services.
costs.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
least, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. And for this area, Hitchcock has typically run between $70 and $100 million a year in uncompensated costs. Wow. So that means a savings of up to $20 million a year for Hitchcock alone. With Hitchcock being the largest employer in the area and in the state, that's a big deal to the economic life of this area. It looks as though that hopefully it won't come down to just a partisan vote, but it looks as though what the issue is going to be is not whether to reauthorize, but who's going to pay for it. How is it going to get paid for? The cost in this biennium, this 2-year period, is estimated to be about $12 million to continue insuring those 42,000 people. It is unclear to me. I'm studying the issue, and it's unclear to me at this point whether that is a gross figure or if it's net. And when I say net figure, is because when those people insured under Medicaid expansion take out a policy through one of the carriers, the carrier has to pay an insurance premium tax on that.
Yeah, in New Hampshire.
Which has been on the books for decades.
Yes.
But the point is that that insurance tax should be directed to offsetting the cost of the cost of the program, and I'm not sure whether that $12 million is gross or net. There are several proposals for how to pay for the program. One is to have what I've heard is to have the hospitals foot the bill on a prorated basis. If you use as a denominator, the asset base for the hospital or the number of Medicaid patients seen or something like that, and then you allocate that $12 billion over that basis, that might be a way of paying for it. As you can imagine, the hospitals, I'm sure, are not too keen on that idea, because they've been asked to step up to the plate in the last couple of years with the state in the Medicaid enhancement tax settlement that we reached last year. Another proposal that's being put out there is to increase the co-payments that the actual Medicaid beneficiaries pay. The idea there being that, enhance personal responsibility. If you're going to use the program, you should have some responsibility for it. The issue with that I have is that the law already requires co-payments from these very, very poor people. We're talking a population that makes $13,000 a year or something like that. Or up to $15,000 a year at the high end of this. And the statute already requires co-payments, and the proposals that I've seen have those co-payments going up anywhere between 5 and 10 times what the current level is. And the problem I see with that is not only that we're, again, trying to balance the state cost of something on the back of the poorest, of those who can least afford it, but also because if a Medicaid beneficiary can't afford a co-payment like that, then he or she is just not going to get this, is not going to go take the service. And if they don't take the service, they're going to wait and put off an illness until it gets so bad that they have to go to the emergency room, which just effectively just brings us back to the old system of uncompensated care. So another proposal is also on the backs of the beneficiaries is to charge a premium, a monthly premium for that. Again, viscerally, it sounds pretty good, personal responsibility and all. But a premium, we have to seek a waiver from the federal government for that. Not sure how long that's going to take, but also, again, premiums and premiums and copays and deductibles are ways in which insurance companies try to depress utilization. And if you depress utilization so much that this population just doesn't use their new access to healthcare, then again the system's just going to collapse, and we're going to go back to the old system. So I think everything should be on the table, including increased copays, including premiums, but we have to be very careful that we're not blowing up the system and trying to save it.
I've had people complain that just unable to afford, I've tried to direct them in some, but there's a penalty if you do not have health insurance in any way when you're doing your federal
Taxes, right.
And I saw somewhere that it's double this year, and then it goes up. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, these people can't afford the insurance in the first place. How can they afford the fines and going forward? Well, one question, and I have been in the insurance business for 18 years prior to here. There's an insurance tax that each company that is doing business in New Hampshire, based on the dollar of their writings, is a tax. Is that a general fund tax? I mean, is this just like the business profits tax?
Yeah.
It is like, okay, so
it just goes directly into the general fund.
The general fund. Okay.
In order to pay for this proposal, or it's not a proposal, it's or it could be a proposal that we direct any premium tax earned off of new Medicaid policies be directed into the Medicaid expansion account, essentially, and dedicate that tax revenue to offset the cost to the state of that. So that might be a proposal as well.
Now, do you see 216, because that's going to be an interesting year, where we have the governor who's going to be running for office, for the Senate office occupied by Kelly AI. We have 2 of the 5 council members, the governor's council members who are running
For governor.
And so we're going to have quite is that going to see a lot of partisan?
I think anytime you get into an election year, it's going to be, the stakes are much higher. But this being especially a presidential year, first of all. Second of all, as you said, our governor is running for U.S. Senate, and we have a couple of executive council seats being vacated. We have, I know that on the Democratic side, we have 1 declared candidate. We have another that's going to declare very soon, I believe. There may be more.
One is a senator, isn't it, that has declared? Is there one of the senators?
No, one of the senators has expressed some interest, but it is not declared.
It's not declared yet. Okay.
But that's not who.
Okay.
It's another candidate who we're talking about. And on the Republican side, we have Chris Sununu, John Sununu's youngest son, I believe, who has declared his candidacy. And there is a senator on the Republican side who has shown some interest in running as well. But that's not a declared candidacy yet. Yeah. So anytime there's that much flux in who's holding office, there's going to be, unfortunately, I think, a lot of grandstanding and a lot of politics.
Yeah. And one of the candidates who was thinking about it is Senator Shaheen's daughter.
Right.
From Concord, I think.
She's from Portsmouth.
She's
on the Portsmouth City Council.
Okay. And so we're getting the old families.
Right.
Sununu and Shaheen. As we did years ago, it was the Gregs and the Sununus.
Right.
And that type of thing. So
Right.
it's going to be an interesting year with the.
Yeah, again, it's a shame because the impulse is there to support your candidates and do what you can to get them elected. But we have to keep, as legislators, I believe we have to keep our focus on the people and not on the campaigns. We have to. I mean, the Medicaid expansion is just vitally important. Like I said, not only to the state, but especially to District 5 as an economic issue. And so that's why I'm very much focused on that. I mean, of course, I have my candidates who I will support, but I will not vote against my district's interests in order to promote the candidacy of someone. I mean, that's just not the way to go.
Yeah. With the all the issues with the budget this year, and it's not going to get any better, probably. This is a loaded question. I'll warn you ahead of time. Do you foresee down the road a sales or an income tax in New Hampshire?
No, I don't.
You do not?
I
Okay.
really don't. The remember in 2012 on the ballot in 2012 there was a constitutional amendment to forever prohibit an income tax being enacted. The amendment failed because it didn't get 2/3 of the vote of the people, but it did get 54% of the vote of the people. So it shows that there is not majority support, there is majority support against a sales or income, and it is just the political environment in which we live. I don't think that anyone. And I know that the candidates for governor on both sides of the aisle are taking the pledge not to enact a broad-based sales or income tax, which I think is unfortunate because I think our tax system, 61 cents of every dollar of state and local taxes is funded by the property tax. And senior citizens who are now on a fixed income, who bought their home when the home was $20,000, now being assessed at $300,000, but now they're on a fixed income. They're senior citizens that are being taxed out of their homes. We can't. It's just not a sustainable model.
And particularly, this year with no increase in Social Security this year,
right.
benefit. So somebody's been reading some of what the amounts some of these. But the average Social Security check is $1,335. Wow. I mean, if you have to eat, pay rent, or pay property tax, and again, your heat, your lights, and the rest.
Right.
That's pretty tight.
What's that? $15,000, $16,000.
Yeah, it's about $16,000 a year.
Yeah.
And what's the poverty level? Not much
below
that.
Right.
And so we're not really treating our senior citizens well. And it's a lot of people who are still around worked in the factories and such where there was no retirement, no pensions, none of that.
Right.
So it's unimaginable for me to see how people are going to survive on something like that.
And that's why I think as between a sales and an income tax, I would be more in favor of an income tax that is based on the individual's ability to pay. Make it fair. Make it if you can afford. Put it at a flat rate, which we have to have under the New Hampshire Constitution. But I would give very generous personal exemptions so that those who, like you're saying, senior citizens who are under 15,000 or 50,000, whatever, I don't know what the number would be, but their first, 20,000 or 40,000, whatever, of income is not taxed. I would give a generous homestead exemptions on the state income tax, so that you actually do earn, or you are actually able to see a savings in your property tax. And then finally, I would say a circuit breaker provision, which it means that if you're paying, I'm just making up a number, you pay $5,000 in state and local taxes before enactment of an income tax, then your income tax bill plus your property tax bill will go no higher than $5,000 in the subsequent year, and then index to inflation after that. Because we don't want to overtax. But the system that we currently have is just inherently unfair and I think unsustainable. but that is a minority view.
Yes.
Yes.
On the encouraging side, though, it seems to be the business profits tax has been increasing steadily. The business franchise tax also.
Right.
So if we continue with economic growth, it should help in the budget area
It
also.
should. Right.
And of course, we're very much involved here in the Upper Valley in that, and hopefully helping in that area.
Right.
And secondary, the second largest income producing to the state is tourism,
Right.
and
Meals and rooms.
rooms and meals tax, gas tax, and what people spend at the stores, business profits too,
Right.
in all of that.
Right.
And if we can continue with that, I do have to say that the legislature has been getting more generous in the last few years in funding initiatives for the tourism through the through Department of Resources, Economic Development, and helping us to promote the state
Right.
also.
Right.
And of course, we as a chamber, work very hard in that regard also.
I don't know if you remember during the budget fight, but when the House passed its version of the budget, it cut all funding for marketing
Yes.
for tourism, which was just minds, head scratching. How could you possibly, when that takes, you invest $1, you get 10 back on that. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But thankfully, as the budget went through the Senate and process, it was fully funded again.
Governor Lynch used to say, "I'd like to have an investment like that for every dollar of my money
Right,
that would
exactly.
return $9." Because I'd be very, very happy.
Right.
For that regard.
Right.
With all of this going on and such, and of course we got roads and bridges is a big item right now. With I guess coming pretty close to the end of Interstate 93 from the Mass line to Derry, but another section. That's always another area that's tight funding.
Right.
Roads and bridges.
Right.
And of course we have the same situation here in
Absolutely.
Lebanon. Any break in that?
Well, if you remember, in 2014, we did pass a 4-cent increase to the gas tax. That money, unfortunately, is being diverted.
Yes, we expected that from
which when I co-sponsored a gas tax increase, and we put a provision in there. I said I would not sign off on it unless it was put in a lockbox and that money was used solely for construction, because that's what it's for.
Sure.
And that's why you've seen me also co-sponsor initiatives in the legislature saying that the legislature can't raid these dedicated funds in order to balance the budget, because I believe that contributes, I think, to distrust of the system, is when politicians say we're going to raise these taxes to pay for this, and then ends up not paying for that. People just, the citizens and voters just get fed up with it,
Really?
as they should.
Yeah. It didn't take long for that fund to be raided. We thought we'd see that was going to happen, and we had to finish 93, and a lot of that went down that neck of the woods.
I also know that the federal transportation bill is just about to run out of money, coming up in the next week or two. So it's going to be interesting to see, with the new Speaker of the House elections coming this week, whether Congress is going to be able to get its act together to pass a new transportation funding bill or not. So,
on the plus side too, with New Hampshire being the first in the nation primary, seems like all the politicians are coming, and I'm sure they're staying at the hotels and all of that. That's going to be a boom to our economy.
That always is a boom to the economy. Yes, it is.
To see them come and keep coming,
Yes, please.
Yes, and we get national attention and such. So, and I know over the years, state after state has been trying to keep me on the date. And Secretary of State Gardner just he puts his finger on that on that pulse and make sure that's not going to happen.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Well, we thank you, Senator, for being with us and giving us sort of an insight here. And then once we get maybe halfway through the session, you can tell us where we've been, where we're going, and how we're going to get there.
Excellent. I always love coming, Paul.
Thank you very much. That's another presentation of Points of Interest brought to you by the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. And we'll be back next week with another program. Until then.